the balances on exchange are usually high balances on exchange are usually bearish indicator for Bitcoin, and low balances are bullish, meaning that people do not want to sell. In fact, they want to accumulate, and that's what we're seeing at the moment.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. Joining me today, Bradley Duke, the European head of Bitwise Asset Management. Bradley, great to speak to you. And of course, what a day. We have those election results coming through thick and fast. Tell us what the Trump win means for crypto and Bitcoin.
Right. So, regardless of your political leanings, the overwhelming Republican victory, and also in the Senate and with the presidential election as well, means that the party that's been very much pro-crypto is now in power in the US. The Democrats were mostly very silent on what their plans were with Bitcoin and crypto going forward, and of course it's been under the last 4 years under the Democrats that the SEC has had Gary Gensler as the chair, and he hasn't been particularly friendly and welcoming towards crypto. So we expect that the Republican presidency will usher in a period of friendliness towards Bitcoin and crypto in general. They've already discussed including having a Bitcoin strategic reserve in the US, which in and of itself is useful, like kind of a national stockpile. They've also mentioned supporting Bitcoin mining on US soil, and in creating a Bitcoin advisory council, which is, these are all steps where it shows that there is the administration is friendly towards crypto and Bitcoin in particular, and has plans. It's also very likely that we'll see the exit of Gary Gensler as SEC chair, and probably Hester Peirce, who's being moved up to the chair. I don't know if that's going to happen, but there's a lot of people who feel that it's likely to happen. And Hester Peirce is, of course, very, very pro crypto. So these are all good headwinds, and the markets have responded accordingly with reaching the new all-time highs for Bitcoin this morning. It went over $75,000. Now kind of settling at last I looked at around $73,500 per Bitcoin.
Well, let's look at the macro environment then as Trump heads back to the office, and particularly the US debt and fiscal sustainability, and how Bitcoin will kind of fit into all of that.
Well, so it's an interesting time. We see the long-term Treasury yields have gone up despite the fact that there was a cut, earlier, 50 basis point cut to rates, and there's definitely a movement away from U.S. Treasuries and a concern about this expansion of borrowing by the U.S. government. The public debt is reached 36 trillion in the U.S. And we've seen, in particular, the BRIC countries, including Russia and China, moving away from U.S. Treasuries. And this narrative is very supportive of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, as you know, there's no counterparty risk with Bitcoin, and it's apolitical. There's no government that's controlling it. There's nobody who's controlling it. So it's an apolitical monetary system. And so really, when there's now, even with the largest economy of the world, people concerned about fiscal sustainability and the possibility of default, which we see also in France in particular, and also in the UK, where where there is an implied higher risk of default, and we're not seeing great numbers coming out, in particular out of France at the moment. It does. People start to look for alternatives and look for a hedge against this fiscal sustainability question.
I mean, looking beyond the US elections, I mean, it's been quite a year for Bitcoin. We had that halving event earlier this year. Currently, low liquid supply of Bitcoin. Give us your thoughts on those.
Yeah, sure. So what we're seeing at the moment is we are seeing that the liquid supply is reaching the year-to-date lows at the moment. And also we're seeing exchange balances have reached 5-year lows. So the exchange balances are basically the Bitcoin so we're talking particularly about Bitcoin here. So the Bitcoin that is on the exchange. So usually if it's on the exchange, it usually means that somebody is going to sell. And because typically people, when they hold, they take it off exchange and they keep it in cold storage or institutional custody. But the balances on exchange are usually high balances on exchange are usually bearish indicator for Bitcoin, and low balances are bullish, meaning that people do not want to sell. In fact, they want to accumulate, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. This also is coinciding. We're around about 200 days since the Bitcoin halving, which is an event that happens every 4 years in Bitcoin, where the rewards given to miners is halved. And that actually, over time, that leads to a drop in the supply and raises the scarcity of Bitcoin. And we mentioned that our research shows that after 100 days after the halving is when statistically you start to see the effects of that halving being felt in terms of the supply shock starting to be felt, and that's shown in a rise in the price of Bitcoin. And now we're at 200 days. And it seems that there's quite a few things that are coming together that are already behind this, this push in the price of Bitcoin that we see in the all-time highs that have been recorded this morning.
Well, Bradley, thanks as always for your insights. Great speaking with you.
Great speaking with you too, Stephen.
That's Bradley Duke. He's European head at Bitwise Asset Management.